I spoke in my first experience, the fact of tasting the savagery of the torment of fire in this place. In the blink of an eye when the Lord leaves me, there was no void, for the presence of the angel was with me. The greatest suffering was the cruelty of the torments of these souls and the savagery to which they suffered at the hands of the demons. It's beyond imagination. We were in the prison of the underworld when we had left the amphitheater, and we arrived before many chambers of hell. I found multiple dungeons or cells where millions of people were crammed together. There were incessant and continual screams with no interruption. There were cells where was detailed souls that were doomed for eternity, separated from God, kept for the last day of the great white throne judgment. These people were lost forever, no more possibility of redemption. There was groaning, brother, you should never fall in this eternal damnation. We began visiting people who were categorized according to their dominant sins. So, that's how we visited the first part of it. People who had hidden the truth, who didn't want to speak the truth on earth. That's how we went to see other cells. There were cells filled with people everywhere, fiery cells. The place was so frightening, and we saw people locked in cells that were burning. It was beyond understanding. Some were tied with barbed wire around their poor legs in these dungeons of the underworld, where cells were arranged in rows. There were countless of cells, a place unimaginable in the mind of men. Screams were everywhere. There in the realm of the dead, people were classified into prisons according to their crimes. For example, we saw those were condemned for concealing the truth. They are placed in their section. They suffer different torments than the others. As we continued walking with the Lord, he told me, you see, you still have to see other people who are suffering greatly in other section and chamber of hell. Demons in this place are tormenting sinner relentlessly. People were truly suffering torment. It was a terrible place, so frightening that I can't even find a physical description to express it better. There were flames everywhere, liquid lava, souls in total torment. So, when we started, we kept seeing people in their torment, in their cells, crying, screaming horribly, searching for help. Even though it was over for them, the judgments were harsh. When he continued our march, after a few more kilometers, because cells were everywhere, as I said, we walked in rows. It was all arranged in order. The Lord will now tell me, I'm now sending my angel to accompany you, with the courage I am giving you, for there will still be difficult things to see. When the Lord said that, in the blink of an eye, an angel arrived instantly by my side. I was now in the company of the Lord angel. His presence radiated a light of love and affection closest to me. To describe this angel of the Lord for you, I can say that this angel carried a resplendent celestial light that reflected love, and radiated the mercy of God. He called me and said this, Adam, now, we are going to visit the prisoners of intimate love. You will see that most of the people here have fallen in the place of torment because of their misconduct in romantic relationships. He wasn't referring to marriage, but he was referring to love. The management of love, and the deeper meaning of perfect love, intimate love between a man and a woman, and also, love is love for one's neighbor. We will continue now. So, while he was speaking to me, I began moving with him. We were visiting different territories of flame. The fire was everywhere in this world, just as I described. We arrived at a place. It was a vast expanse. Liquid fire was everywhere, and cells were arranged in order beyond the sight. Thousands of souls, many souls of men and women from all nations and all races were piled up and imprisoned in this horrendous place of fire. This section was even larger than anything we had already visited in this place. In any case, I wouldn't know how to describe it, how to find the words, how to explain it, but it was so much, much larger. So at the entrance, when we arrived, although we could see the expanse at the entrance, there was a large stone, and it was on this stone that it was written, here are imprisoned people who have misbehaved in love. After I had read the sin that was described on this stone and the description, the angel began to explain to me, the main reason why these people were there, is that they are prisoners of love. They are in this place because of their conduct regarding intimate love, the love between a man and a woman. And then we began to approach. We passed the stone because the expanse was above, so it was as if we had taken a few steps, and then we found ourselves above the vast expanse. The impression I had was that it was as if we were in a blazing furnace. There were cells of fire everywhere. Prisoners were inside prison cells that were engulfed. Everything was shackled. These souls were trying to touch the iron bars of their cells in the flames, letting out terrible screams. Crying was everywhere. They were trapped, tormented, witnessing this terrible and unimaginable punishment. I was crying uncontrollably. The tears wouldn't stop because of the cruelty of the torments that these damned souls were enduring. Lost forever, I was crying out from all sides. Sometimes their sound seemed to come from my soul, from my mind, from my thoughts. I couldn't distinguish them because I was crying incessantly and wouldn't stop. The torment was so horrible. While I was watching this scene, remember, I was no longer walking with Jesus, but with an angel who had been sent to accompany me on this journey. I began to cling to him and tried to tell him that it was truly horrible. I couldn't bear what I was seeing. I was crying uncontrollably. I told him, I'm going back to earth. I can't take it anymore. I'm tired. I'm ready to tell the world this. But I can't continue to bear the weight of this reality. The angel looked at me and spoke with profound sadness, saying, Be strong, Adam, you must see these things again. The world must be informed of this reality that awaits them after death. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27. And since it is appointed for man to die once, after which comes judgment, when the angel spoke to me, as I was saying, there were cages that could be considered prisons or cells, where people's souls were lost. We were walking amidst these fiery liquids nearby. The first cell that attracted my attention, when I stared, I saw a damned soul inside, behind the bars. He was crying and moaning in pain, in his torment, while he suffered. He spoke, saying, This is enough, I can't take it anymore. This is enough, I can't take it anymore. He was exhausted but didn't give up. He searched for a way out of the shackles on his hands or his feet. He made contortions, using the last of his remaining strength to try to break free. All these attempts were doomed to failure, but he didn't give up in his quest to leave this place because he kept repeating that it was enough and that he had to do everything to get rid of it. He tried desperately. I watched how the man fought to leave this place as their hands, body, head, feet and whole being plunged into a horrible flame. It was as if their clothing was made of fire that were gushing and coming out everywhere. Sometimes they tried to cling to the iron bars of their cell to try to get out, but it was impossible. The sight of people in these cells were horrible. I thought of animals behind cages, locked up. And it was the same with this man. It was a scene beyond imagination. It was a terrifying scene to see a person seeking help, crying out, saying, Who can get me out? Jesus, remember me. I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. I must leave this place. I can't take it anymore. It was as if the more he cried and screamed, his cries that intended to rid himself of his suffering was actually intensifying his pain. The human body is useless. People in these cells were just bones with some flesh clinging onto them, falling out like crazy. Here, people scream like that constantly and incessantly. I was looking at the cell of this soul, and I saw that there was an image. There was a shadow reflecting a person. This was not ordinary person, but it was the shadow of someone who kept saying to this lost soul, Daddy, this is what you did to me. You prevented me from being born on earth and fulfilling my mission. Cursed be your existence. You stopped my birth from the earth, interrupting my purpose. The angel began to give me knowledge of the terrifying scene of this man. He told me this man you see was a servant in a church. The pastors where he worked had established a law that any romantic relationship was completely forbidden within the church. He insisted that the pastor had forbidden all romantic relationships and any hidden love affairs within the church. He taught that all relationships had to be clear, honest, and respectful of the rules of the congregation. In his church, what we call engagement was tolerated. So, since the law forbade this relationship within the church, the brother, having agreed to work within the church, had begun to develop a romantic relationship with a choir member, in secret. He had already broken the church law by doing what is contrary to the principles of the church's faith. He developed a relationship with a choir member, but the brothers were esteemed by the pastors, establishing him in several positions. He was simultaneously moderator, president of the intercession, and associate. His romantic relationship with the sister went on. Much later, the sister became pregnant. When the sister told the brother, saying, "Look, I'm pregnant," she said, "If this news reaches the church, I don't know what to do. But I'm telling you the truth, this is my situation." The brother, initially ashamed of his position within the church, fearing his pastor, and also considering his financial situation, said, "I don't know how I'll manage." The woman said, "No, it's your pregnancy." The story became known at the church and within the girl's family, eventually reaching some church leaders. When the facts came to light, the girl's parents came to the church and spoke to the pastor to explain the situation and the seriousness of the problem. The pastor summoned the brother, who unfortunately denied all the accusations. He dismissed the girl's statements, saying, "I know absolutely nothing about this story. The girl insisted that you were responsible for the pregnancy." The brothers, filled with shame in society and the church, categorically denied the pregnancy. Although brutalized by the parents, he never changed his mind. He never wanted to accept the pregnancy. Finally, he was expelled from the church, and then his in-laws, seeing what else to do, pressured their daughter into having an abortion. Their daughter, expelled from the church, eventually had abortion. After his abortion, the angel told me, much later, that the brother would become involved with another woman, but the story of his abortion and the way he brutalized the girl remains in God's records. He left the church and married another woman. After 40 years of his earthly life, this man would die, and after leaving the earth, that's how he ended up there in the realm of the dead, firstly for sinning against commitment. The angel explained to me about the judgment of agreements. When people have a deal, they must respect certain principles. Whoever breaks the agreement has breached the commitment of loyalty. He had committed himself to the service of the church, accepting the pastor's prohibitions against romantic relationships within the church. In the past, the church treated romantic relationships as fornication before God, and those who live in such relationships can never see the Lord. The angel now insists that this brother broke the church's rules, which were a contract with the pastor, stating that the way to serve God is to respect a certain model, a certain principle. Whoever joined this church must agree to follow the model, but after joining and agreeing to the principle of sanctification of the body and then you act outside the principle of faith confessed within the church, that was his condemnation. And the second betrayal and breach that followed was the complete denial of his pregnancy, the complete refusal that he was the true father of this child. This was heinous. This act was heinous before God. That is how, after his death, this man ended up there in the abode of the dead, because he first disobeyed the church's principles and then also denied his pregnancy. That is the reason he ended up there. The angel began to explain to me that when a man denied pregnancy, this caused women to consider abortion. By denying the pregnancy and also due to family pressure, the girl was forced to have an abortion. The man is responsible for the girl's action because he denied the pregnancy, and the girl went to have an abortion because of her family's pressure. Her parents refused the social shame and the man abandonment of her daughter. The man's fault lies in the loss, firstly, the social shame, secondly, the abandonment, and thirdly, the parents' refusal to accept this situation. Although the man did not consent to her decision, the man who rejected the pregnancy truly bears the weight of the girl's actions. I look at this man in his cell that was burning with fire. There was the image of the child that was aborted accusing him, saying, "Father, you deprived me of life on earth. I had a mission to fulfill in this world, but you destroyed me before I was born. Before I was born, curse your existence. You destroyed me, curse your days." When the shadow spoke, we began to watch. The angel told me to observe the scene. The man began to say, "I know nothing about you. Who are you really?" He felt harassed, blackmailed by the shadow of the baby. The man was overcome with fear and cold and began to say, "I know nothing about you. Who are you really?" The shadow replied, "I am the child you caused to be aborted. Curse your existence." The man began to tremble. He began to scream. He said, "I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm sorry, forgive me. I knew nothing about it." But the image continued to declare, to utter words of curse against this gentleman, who continued to shout, to scream. This image continued to speak evil words about him, to make evil declarations. The gentleman continued to say, "I am already condemned, have mercy on me, I am sorry for everything that happened, I repent, I know I did wrong." The image continued to speak with an atrocious violence, the likes of which cannot be imagined. The angel began to explain to me, "For every sin you commit on earth, the image will be projected into hell. This is what is called moral suffering. Your crime is projected before you, the scene is placed before you to remind you eternally that you are not here in vain, you are truly guilty. This is the torment of conscience. The sinner is punished psychologically as well. It is the blood of the child he aborted on earth. He is the one who enabled this woman to have an abortion, and now he bears the weight of the act." He was pleading with this image, which was uttering words of curse. Great is the torment against this man, which has intensified in this place. This man was having fits. I saw events continuing to overwhelm him like nothing I could imagine. The image was terrifying. I told the angel to move on. "I can't take it anymore, it's becoming unbearable." The angel is surely telling me, "You must continue to see these scenes, you must continue to see these scenes." Take Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 again. "Before I was formed in your mother's womb I knew you, and before you were born I set you apart, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." The angel tells me, "See here, even the baby speaks, before I was formed from your mother's blood." How much stronger are those who have abortions, who are killing people? But here the angel was speaking more about the cruelty of the act. The denial of his own pregnancy, the refusal, the embarrassment he caused the girl. He was responsible for the girl's suffering. After him, when we went a few meters from his cell, in the next one, we found another man, but this one was tormented by demons. They were mysterious creatures. They had things like spears, but they were held together with barbed wire. They would take these and force them into the man's anus, and things would come out in an unbelievable way. His torment was immense, the savagery of his torment beyond all human comprehension. Other demons held him in the middle, some grabbed him at his poor skeletal legs, and others at his hands. They would take him and throw him directly onto the ground in this fiery liquid. The man was screaming his head off. His genitals were also tormented. Then a voice came out into the void, "You took my virginity." In front of him, there was a television showing him forcing a woman to have sex. We could see a woman struggling and saying, "Darling, I don't want to do today, I will not do it today." The man was saying, "I have no choice, you must satisfy me." We saw the scene where the man was brutalizing the woman in bed, and the demons were trying to show him the image. They were telling him, "What you did to this woman is what we will do to you." The man was saying, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you tormenting me like this? Leave me alone, I can't take it anymore. Leave me alone, I can't take it anymore." The demon said, "You must pay. Love is not force. You cannot compel someone against their will." I was disturbed watching the scene because I didn't understand. We just see two people having sex. The female doesn't want to, but the male is brutalizing, forcing her to make love, and the demons are telling this man that we are tormenting you because of his lack of consent. Curious to know why this was happening, the angel begins to explain, "You see this man, he was married to his wife. Now what happened? The man and woman had a few arguments, and the woman said, 'Honey, I don't agree with your reaction.' The woman told him, 'I want to sleep on the floor, not in bed with you. I want to know more.' The angel explained that the woman had caught him with messages from her ex-partners. As a married woman, she started yelling at home, talking to her husband. I don't agree with that. This happened at 6 p.m., and the woman didn't want to sleep in the same bed as her husband on that day. The woman decides to sleep in the living room. The man woke up at 10:30 p.m., needing to have sex with his wife. He called her, but she refused. He came and tried to persuade her with words, but his wife was adamant, saying, "I don't want to do it today, I don't have peace, leave me alone." At midnight, the man returned again. The woman still refused. At 2 a.m. the man resorted to violence. The woman said, "I won't go, don't force me." The man said, "No, Absolutely not, I will. You know that men are stronger than women. The woman struggled to free herself from her husband, and the man didn't want to leave her alone. Well, she was a married woman, she couldn't scream, but she struggled, but the man forced himself on her. After he finished, the woman began to cry. The woman went into the bedroom and said, "I told you, don't force me, I don't want to, you've humiliated me." The man said, "Oh, just leave it, forget it, okay?" The woman remained firm in her decision. The Lord Angel said, the mere fact that he didn't obtain her partner's consent, since it was an act outside of consent, it is the reason that after death the man was condemned. The man failed to ask his wife forgiveness for having forced her. This man finds himself in hell. 2 Samuel chapter 13 verse 12. So, and she answered him, "Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly." The angel told me that in a married couple, sexual relations must be consensual. Any man or partner who engages in the act by brutalizing the other commits a sin in the eyes of God, even if they are married. This is considered rape. Wow, because there is no consent. The act must stem from the couple's desires, and each partner must feel ready to satisfy their partner. But if you take their love by force, you sin before God. This man, who was in torment, was now being tormented by demons using the same violence he had inflicted on his wife. The demons tried to overpower him with their hands, using violence, forcing him, beating him, torturing him, making him sob in the same way he had made his wife suffer, because it proved that the act was not a desire of the woman's heart. When we passed this man, we found another man also in his cell. He too was tormented, but he was tormented by objects. I saw them in the form of money, in the form of clothing, in the form of various items, some of which were covered in mud. I can't explain it any better, but all these objects were crying out for justice. Let justice be done. So, these objects, which weren't part of the composition of hell, meant to burn person, directly contributing to their torment, and were demanding punishment. This man tried to scream, to cry out. The great severity of his torment stemmed particularly from these objects, which were already charred by the fire but continued to demand God's judgment. I asked the angel again why these objects were screaming for justice. The angel told me the man's story. He told me, "You see this man? He wasn't married yet, he was living with a girl. The girl and the man together took the initiative to work to earn money for a wedding, for the man said, 'We don't have enough money, what should we do?' So they decided to come up with a plan. Their plan was to buy items and resell them in their town. The idea was good, and the decision was made. They started taking the necessary steps. They set off together. Imagine, they're unmarried, but they started traveling together. They bought men's and women's clothing. Upon returning, the man would sell the men's items and resell them. The woman did the same. Sometimes the man didn't have time, so the woman would sell them. They conceived this project with the goal of helping them get married. The man was the cashier. The woman didn't keep the money. When he worked, the money was collected. They calculated it together, and that was their profit. They opened a bank account. The account was in the man's name, so the man managed the account. He managed both the money and the accounts. After a few trips, the woman fell ill, and the woman became pregnant and also sick. The woman couldn't accompany the man during that time, as it was the start of the school year. It was a good time to sell items like notebooks, school supplies, uniforms, and so on. Okay, the girl stayed. Her fiancé went to buy things and made a profit, and then the man had started cheating with another girl, using the money saved for the wedding his fiancé. The man found another girl more beautiful than the one he had started with. He decided to leave the girl without informing her. Even though they were together. On Saturday, the man got engaged with this girl thanks to the savings he had accumulated with his fiancé. He has betrayed his fiancé.